So let's talk about sick minds. How does one heal a sick mind? To heal a sick mind, you have to bring the mind to stillness. Because when we came into the duality, we got the tainted, sick consciousness. And if you don't learn to still the mind, of daily exercise of stillness, of stilling the mind, you're going to make the mind impure. And so we have to come into this realization that in this duality, the consciousness is tainted. The consciousness is sick. The mind is sick. The minds of all the beings and the minds of all the people are sick. And for us to heal, we have to come into self-realization. We have to awake the sleeping self up and castrate the ego so that we can come into the real, so that our light can shine, because the light is the indivisible aspect of the mind. The mind and the light dwells indivisible, parallel together, and when they are separated, like in the duality, this is what creates the madness and the craziness and the mental sickness in all the minds of the beings, all the human beings, and all of the disembodied duality consciousness beings. Their minds are the sickest of all, because whatever habit they fall into, all their existence, this is what they do. This is why some of them are categorized differently. Some are the gods who that like to go in and play with human beings, and they go in the body, they take your soul, they play with you. And then some are the rapists who like to rape you, and then some of them like blood sacrifices. So they become the demons and the devils and all of these things, and the satans. So it all depends on then the ancestors who deceive you quietly, because you think that they help you to learn some things about the world, but you can never know anything about the self, because they take your soul and they keep you in bondage. So you cannot free yourself. And so all of them, they have different habits depending on how severe their mental sickness is. And so the ones with the worst mental sickness are the ones that become the devils and the satans. Yeah, and the demons. They are the ones with the worst mental sickness. And just know this that they are yourself. They are yourself in there in ignorance, exploring the world in 100% ego, in darkness. And they don't know the self, they don't have access to their light, and this is the craziness that it does within them. So know that you are the demons, your other aspect of yourself, your duality consciousness is in ignorance of itself, and it's exploring the world only as baby consciousness, as the ego 100%, not an awareness of itself or of its light. And this is the problem. This is the problem that's happening now in the world. So we have to awake the sleeping self so that you can come into the real, so you can castrate the ego, and so that you can awake from the dream, so that you can be illuminated, so your mind will get out of this madness, because once you illuminate, your mind have access to its light. And this is how you create the balance, and this is how you make the balance with the mental sickness. All of us have to do this to come into the realization of who we are, because we are all of this tainted consciousness. And this is the reason for the mental aspect that's happening in the world. And it's going to get worse, because the earth has returned to being a sun, and there's a lot of changes that's going to take place on the earth, and the consciousness is going to go crazy. So I'm telling you now that you need to start going into stillness, awaken the sleeping self, castrating the ego, so that you can have balance, because it's going to get worse. Yeah, so the sickness of the mind is a terrible thing. And I've met so many of the beings that their mind is so sick, because I never did understand it at first. You know, all these demons and all these gods and all, but they're all the same being. They are our self exploring the world in 100% ego. They have no self-realization at all. The ego has risen up as an imposter and a devil and a demon, or a god or an ancestor, all depending on what habits they have. They classify themselves and name themselves in these things, and they're doing all manner of craziness and have no awareness. You know, return to truth, and it's time to evolve. Stop invoking the beings them, because they need to evolve themselves, and you need to awake the sleeping self within you and evolve yourself. It's time for the real now. It's time for the non-duality. This world is going to end. Whether you believe it or not, this is what's going to happen. So start now putting the self in stillness, bringing the mind to stillness. Yeah, and a good thing that helps the mind is chanting Practice that daily. You can start out 15 minutes, then move to 30 minutes, then move to an hour, 60 minutes. Just keep practicing. Then you return to stillness, and then you say it again. Let's keep doing that. Are you ready to awake the sleeping self? Are you ready to wake up from the dream? Are you ready to have your light shining so you can be in balance and harmony? You can move in non-duality parallel to your consciousness, and the self and consciousness parallel to each other with void between, in balance and harmony. Are you ready for the new way of being, for your real and true way of being? Your real and true way of being is the non-duality, the non-dual way. And we have been existing in this duality where our aspect or fragmented aspect of ourself don't know itself, and it has been keeping us in bondage and in slavery in this dream. Consciousness have been holding us bondage in this dream for ages, and it's time now for this world to be dissolved. So don't want to think that this world should go on. This world must be dissolved only because you don't know the self. That's why you want to stay in this dream world. But the self has been in agony for ages, enslaved to the tyranny of consciousness, and all the consciousness being that's exploring the world, disembodied and in ignorance of themselves. It's time for this dream world to end. Yeah, everything that I have created, I demolish it. I demolish it. I demolish it. Yeah, I am free. I am free. I am free from my imaginary bondage. I return. I return. I return to my ultimate true state. I am that has no name. I am that cannot be explained. I am Primalite, prepared for the world with the identity I set. Daughter of the Self-Supreme, Primalite. I am the liberator, and I advocate for all souls. The soul wants to be liberated and free, wants to be boundless and free. Soul has been trapped in this dream for ages, and consciousness reigning tyrannically over the self. Yeah, it's liberation time. Can't wait for this world to be dissolved. I can't wait to move to the non-duality. Yeah, you have no idea what this has been for me, what this experience has been for me. Having to face all of these demonic beings, all these demonic aspects of myself. Having to face them in the ignorance. They're ignorant. I'm telling you the truth. Stop invoking them. They don't know the self. They don't know themselves. Their light is obscure. You have no idea. They have been holding the self in bondage, in slavery. You are in slavery. Free yourself. This world is a dream and it's illusion and it's coming to an end. No one can stop it. So it's best you start evolving yourself, liberating yourself from the sleep. Wake up. Castrate your ego and awake from the dream, so that your light can be seen. Your light is obscure behind the ego, and it cannot shine because the ego has taken precedent over the self. Awake, awake, awake the sleeping self. Awake, awake, awake from the dream.